In Harry and Meghan's much-mentioned marriage, who wears the trousers? Or, for our American friends, who wears the pants? And here's another question. As interest in the Duke and Duchess of Sussex evaporates, how much longer can they cling on to their $100 million Netflix contract? From July to December last year, the dismal duo's Downer documentary series pulled in just 1.9 million views. In stark contrast, their former friends, Posh and Beck's reality show was watched by a colossal global audience of 43.9 million. But as he contemplates this uncertain financial future, is the infatuated prince tormented by something that worries him a lot more? That is the terrifying prospect of Meghan leaving him. Is she the boss who must be obeyed, the wife who'll walk if her henpecked husband doesn't do exactly what he's told? What is the dynamic of an unlikely relationship between a British aristocrat born into the most incredible wealth, status and privilege, and an American former game show glamour girl forced to hustle her way through the ruthlessly horrible Hollywood jungle? For the answer, look no further than the petulant prince's, and I quote, strong, angry, honest statement on the royal family's official website posted way back in 2016, which, until only a few months ago, stayed live for 7 long years. Harry, we're told, is far from happy that his intemperate, entirely unproven allegation that the British press's attitude to Meghan was dictated by racism has finally now been removed. In his spiteful little book Spare, he raged against his father, the King, and brother, Prince William, after they made it clear that the dignified royal approach to public life was not to rant and rave about every little thing that isn't quite to your liking. But is love-struck Harry still petrified that Meghan will one day simply up stumps and quit? Is desperately wanting to please his strong-willed missus what turned Harry from a carefree young guy into a permanently fed-up, moaning misery guts, launching legal actions like confetti while spouting indecipherable Californian psychobabble? To paraphrase what he once imperiously told cowering palace staff, does Harry make sure that Meghan gets what Meghan wants? Does he bend over backwards to be like his virtue-signalling other half? Somehow you get the feeling that the answer is an emphatic yes. As the prince went public with his protective letter to the media, insiders recall that in the firestorm of the breaking romantic story, his main motivation was a profound fear that Meg would recoil from the global limelight and head for the hills. Meghan recoil from the limelight? That'll be the day. Just maybe Harry will eventually tell Meghan where to get off, inform her he doesn't really care about the right-on West Coast politics she requires him to sign up to. Tell her that he's off to Vegas for a few beers and a laugh with the lads. And just maybe one day pigs might fly. Yeah, he's henpecked, isn't he, Simon?
Where do we get this from? Why did we decide he's henpecked?
Because of that letter.
Maybe from the fact that he completely disowned his family, moved countries. Yeah. Maybe he's a little bit henpecked. Yeah. Doesn't even come to his dad anymore.
Maybe the evidence is there that he does exactly what she said. That would never have been his plan. Hey, Meghan, let's up stump some to California. Yeah. That would never have been it. It was her. He does exactly what she tells him, and he is terrified that one day she might quit.
Having read his spiteful little book, Spare, as you like to
call
it.
You understand what it's called now, yeah.
I don't come across that he's henpecked. I come across that he's very caring and he's very protective of her, and I don't see that equates to being scared or
Translation, shit scared of her.
I don't see it, and I actually think last week, a couple of things that I said, including that they have enriched the lives of Americans, that I know a lot of people...
These would have been the things you said that earned you the nickname Simple Simon?
Indeed. Yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Very simple, Simon.
I sort of reading it and said they've enriched the lives of Americans. I looked up and saw how many awards that they've been given as a couple, and they've been given something called the Ribbon of Hope for their work with mental health charities. she's been given something for being an inspiring woman and stuff like this.
Well, am I supposed to be impressed by this crap?
I'm just saying.
These are just ridiculous Hollywood ceremonies that pour awards on undeserving people.
Come on, Simon. The fact that you actually had to look up what awards they've won, that they've probably paid for through some sort of organisation or donation to a charity. Oh, please.
I've got an award he won, very deserving, a Legend of Aircraft, when John Travolta...
Pioneers of aviation.
Pioneers of aviation. I mean... He's flown a helicopter in Afghanistan. Why does that make him a legend, a pioneer?
I think that makes him quite brave, actually. But let's move back just a second. We have Samara here, who, despite...
Yeah, no, it doesn't make him a pioneer of aviation, does it?
Who, despite being wrong about a lot of stuff, is a very, very good producer and very forceful. Now, women are sometimes called bossy when they are assertive. And I think a lot of what Meghan has picked up for is downright sexism, as you said in the first place.
Which she bored the world with in her tedious podcast series, Archetypes. Breaking out of the archetypes that put women into shackles. Excuse me. At long last, I'll tell you, there was a good reason to listen to Archetypes, and that is if you suffer from insomnia. It was a guaranteed cure. Most people were fast asleep within 7 minutes.
Yeah, I remember one of the episodes was, what is a bimbo? What does being a bimbo mean?
She should know. She should know. I mean, she was a glamour girl on Deal or No Deal.
It's not a glamour girl. She's basically a model. But let's go back a minute.
Well, that's all right.
That's much better,
Hang on a second. Simple Simon, be quiet. It's time for the lady to talk. Don't be so rude. Don't be so sexist. What do you think about the fact, as I mentioned in the monologue, that along the way, their interest in the gruesome twosome from Montecito, their Montecito Majesties, has evaporated. They are now not being watched hardly at all on Netflix, while people like Posh and Bex are going through the roof. They are tailing off. They are no longer the focus of interest, and that is going to prove a problem for them, if only financial, because that $100 million contract they've got with Netflix, to say that is fragile is the overstatement of the century.
100%. I'm going to call it. I think that there's going to be divorce in the next 3 to 5 years. And I hate to say that, but I'm sorry, when the money pot...
I love the way we all laugh.
No, but when the money pot starts to dry up, that's when people like Meghan, who had a previous relationship with a producer, wonder why, as a Hollywood actress, she married a producer who then didn't really help her with her career, who she then left, jumped to the next option. She came to London wanting to be with a footballer. It was for a PR thing. Yeah. She ended up accidentally landing in the hands of Harry, who was in a very, very dark spot, playing, third wheel to Kate and William. So, she will jump onto the next opportunity. And I think that she is almost the breadwinner, so to speak, of the family. And I think it's weighing on her.
I think she's the one with the energy. I agree with that. She's the one with the ambition.
But you can't.
And that is because, Simon, they come from very different backgrounds. I think that Prince Harry does not understand ambition. He really doesn't. Because he, and I actually quite respect Meghan in one respect. It's not easy to battle your way through the Hollywood jungle. I know that. I used to live there. And the Hollywood jungle consumed me and spat me out like yesterday's breakfast. But that isn't the point. Actually, I did very well there, as a matter of fact. I'd just like to point that out. That was just a joke. But seriously, it's tough in Hollywood, and she's hustled her way to the top. But I think along the way, what she's proved is she's prepared to do anything. She didn't really have the talent, so she married a prince.
This is a
good idea.
This is a recurring theme, and actually, back in the 1930s, which you'll probably remember, Kev, the kids used to sing...
Excuse me, my sides are actually splitting.
The kids used to sing...
Oh, be still, my aching sides.
About Edward VIII. Hark the herald angels sing, Mrs. Simpson's pinched our king. Whenever an American came into the royal family and threw a hand grenade,
it's a syndrome, and we're sick of it.
They were always
get your own men.
They were always vilified. They were always vilified, and they were always made to be the villain. I think that Meghan, as you say, she's a hustler, and she's done incredibly well for herself to come from where she is, from where she was to where she is. Harry has had to find another route because he is the spare. Yeah, and he's done that, actually, by opening up and being more honest and open about himself through books like...
shut the
through books like Spare, and also focusing on mental health, which the Americans are much more attuned to than we are. I don't see...
I'm worried about mental health.
Literally, Harry, spill your guts out, interrogate your entire family, just throw it all out so that we can have our house in Montecito because I couldn't handle living in the suppressive vibe of the palace. That's basically what Meghan did. And when we talk about henpecking, that is the definition of.
But do you see, we do hear that there is tension in this relationship, and it is because Harry really cannot understand the showbiz world. He doesn't get it, and he doesn't understand her interest in it.
I disagree.
But would you accept, both of you really, that if you're like Harry, I mean, if you're born into the royal family, you're never going to be like the rest of us. You know, most of us, we get born, we go to school, go to university and all that, and then we try and do our best to make some money and get through life. He doesn't understand that. From the moment he came into this world, it's all laid on a plate for him. Gilded palaces, loads of money, absolute status, private jets. You know what? You see what I mean? He has that from day one. It does change you.
Well, he can't be changed if he's had it. He can't be changed if he's had it from day one.
It means that he's different from Meghan.
Yes, but I'm saying that I remember reading an interview with Ron Howard, who used to be in Happy Days. What was he in Happy Days? Richie Cunningham. Richie Cunningham is now the big...
Very good film director.
And now the big film director. And he said, as a child star, he can't remember a time when he wasn't famous.
There you go.
Now, that's the same with Harry. Harry is showbiz. If you're royalty in this country, you're basically showbiz.
Yeah.
And I think he's used to that as well. His brand of showbiz, which is deference and aristocracy, meets Meghan's brand of showbiz, which is hustling, being famous all around the world. You might not like Suits. A lot of people watch it. Together, they are a power couple. I don't think it's henpecked man and bossy woman. I think they're a power couple
who has done nothing. They want themselves.
Why don't they do something then?
They want to be like the Obamas, but they haven't done any of that. They want to be like Oprah. They haven't had her struggle or her plight. It's ridiculous. They literally want to be a power couple, Hollywood's famous thing, but they haven't done anything.
They have had a...
Simon.
They've had
an awkward delay. Let me see what have they done.
They've had a Spotify podcast. They've had a Netflix...
how did that work out for them? I know. They got the contract cancelled.
They've had a Netflix...
Because it was shit what they produced.
They've had a Netflix deal. They've had a best-selling book, a global best-selling book. And now they're moving on to do...
When you say now got a foundation.
They've now got a foundation which
She's done a podcast. He's done a book. They've done a crappy little series on Netflix.
They've done it, though.
That was really nasty.
They've done it. They've
achieved
it. They have done all that stuff. They've done a lot more than a lot of other couples.
You call that an achievement?
I do.
I do. So you set the bar low for achievement.
Listen, I'm not saying I'm setting the bar low.
Simple Simon, ladies and gentlemen.
Stop calling me that.
We've got you. Every time you say anything, I'm going to say that. He's not Simple Simon. He's just the village idiot of this programme, to be honest with you. But yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, I once interviewed Paul McCartney. I've interviewed him a few times. Hang on, I've dropped something. It's a name. But he was explaining to me how, you know, he to be fair to Paul, he tries to keep his feet on the ground. He tries to be a normal guy. And he was explaining to me, he said, do you know how difficult it is? You know, I don't know how old he was then, 65, 70 or something. He said, since I've been about 20 years old, no one has ever said no to me. Now, that is Harry's story.
Well, it's interesting you say that because...
I love the way I point to Samara.
Yeah.
Sorry. Simple Simon talks about...
Sorry, Samara. Talk about sexism, Simon, but all right.
Samara, go please. I apologise.
Thank you very much.
I apologise.
How polite of you.
What's interesting and why I think the divorce is going to take place is that you talk about private jets, mansions in Montecito. That's actually all stuff that Meghan has had to forage for herself. Tyler Perry's jet is what they predominantly use. They use Tyler Perry's mansion. Yeah. He's like sort of the godfather of their whole relationship. It's going to weigh on her because she doesn't strike me as the type of person who's willing to be with someone who, obviously, Harry has confessed to being very latent in years, you know, past at Frogmore Cottage, smoking up.
She doesn't want to be with anyone who doesn't do exactly what she says. We've got to go to a bad ad.
Yeah, I just saw the space. The birthday girl's going to love it. Problem is, we can't get in until 5:30, which means we only have 45 minutes to set up before she arrives. I have got the flowers. Oh, we're going to be 14, not 16. Right. Okay. Yep, I'll see you soon.
The right pair of jeans makes you feel good. Really good.
Reitman's, really.
Another example of her thespian talent, Shakespearean indeed. But there she is again, Meghan, hustling, flogging jeans.
Yeah, that was her on the phone to Harry.
Get
the 12 guests.
Yeah,
14 guests.
and then admiring herself.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Don't I look great?
You know, I read about that. She actually stole that pair of shoes from that shoot.
You're kidding.
Yeah.
I bet she nicked the jeans.
She's a hustler, she's a hustler. So
Yeah.
a couple of
A
things.
hustler and a thief.
A couple of things are there. I'm not going to make the joke. Are you saying Shakespearean? You should see her bottom in a Midsummer. If I'd have got that out, that would have
Simple
been
Simon,
perfect.
ladies and gentlemen.
But what I was going to say, I wanted to go back to a point you made about Paul McCartney. Paul McCartney, when he was married to Linda McCartney, she had to put up with so much crap and rubbish about how she bossed Paul around, how she had to be on the tours, how she had to sing on the records,
it's a stereotype.
and everything else. And it is a stereotype that men have to put up with when they have women a partner.
No,
sorry,
it's a
when they
stereotype
have.
the women have to put up with.
Sorry,
if they're powerful and authoritative.
Indeed, and I feel
I agree with that.
And I feel that
but
Meghan
it's an unfair stereotype for lots of women. But in Meghan's case, it's completely fair. Time for a real break. What just happened?
He's mad as hell. It's Kevin O'Sullivan.
There you are. Welcome back to What Just Happened with the deeply unpopular Simon London, Simple Simon London. You're never getting rid of that nickname. The village idiot of this show and the genius of this show, Samara Gill. Here are a few of my thoughts on the various presidents of America. After the shameful lawfare prosecution of Donald Trump, a triumphant Joe Biden crowed, "The American principle that no one is above the law was reaffirmed." Well, now the old boy's words have come back to haunt him in spectacular fashion. Over the weekend, following Trump's 34 convictions for obscure bookkeeping discrepancies, an astonishing $200 million poured into his presidential campaign fund, mostly in donations of less than $100. That's one hell of a lot of voters reacting with disgust to the blatant manipulation of US justice by a Democrat district attorney and a so-called unbiased judge who was so fantastically impartial he once gave money to Sleepy Joe. Until the Donald's downfall in that blatantly corrupt New York court, polls predicted that support for him would fall away among Republican supporters who could not bring themselves to back a convicted felon. But guess what? It looks like they can after all. And even more decent Americans are rallying to the orange man's cause in an extraordinary mass protest over the trumped-up trial of the century. People who had no intention of voting for Trump now say they will, especially in all-important swing states like Arizona, where the vast majority of citizens are just shrugging their shoulders and laughing off Donald's criminal status. They simply don't care. In other words, the dozy Democrats' dirty bid to undermine Biden's rival has explosively backfired. Far from derailing Trump's race to the White House, the low-down lawfare tactic has put a rocket under it, and more seasoned Washington observers forecast that he is right on track to trounce old Joe come polling day on November the 5th. Frankly, bloody serves the dastardly Dems right. Meanwhile, back to living fossil Joe and that no one is above the law thing. A certain Hunter Biden, the current president's 54-year-old problem child, is finding that out right now. He's been in a Delaware court facing felony charges of attempting to obtain a gun while addicted to crack cocaine. Prosecutors say that Hunter, whose love of illegal narcotics and prostitutes has been a long-running thorn in his doddery dad's political side, lied about his drug use in order to procure a Colt Cobra 38 SPL revolver. Biden Jr.'s defense team insists that the case is far from open and shut, but if found guilty, Hunter could get prison time. So, those law-abiding Americans we were assured would recoil from voting for Trump, the official lawbreaker, What are they going to make of potentially voting for the father of a coke-smoking jailbird? Yeah, Mr. President, no one is above the law, including your son. But hey, Joe, as you're finding out to your costs, the rules are different for Donald Trump. Always were and always will be. That's true. So last week you're crying, oh, he's a convicted criminal. He won't make it now. He's going to go to jail.
Stop doing my voice.
Well, you were wrong because it has backfired. It has actually propelled him towards the White House even faster. Americans really are disgusted by what happened in that court. You cannot deny that more than $200 million, mostly in donations of less than $100, pouring in over the weekend subsequent to that court's felony convictions of Donald Trump, is that you cannot deny. That's phenomenal.
It's incredible. It's phenomenal. And, a couple of things on that.
Blimey.
No,
Hang on,
it is.
agreed.
It is. We agree. Look, a couple of things on that.
Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a great show.
A couple of things on that. I, last week, said that these people are in a cult. And looking at the size of those donations, it seems that the people who are sending this money in are probably the people who are poorer, we could suggest, or have less money.
Blue collar.
Yeah, blue collar workers.
Classic blue collar.
And I would
support.
say, and I would go back to what I said before. Decent, upstanding Republicans, and there are a lot of those in that country, see Trump for what he is. MAGA supporters don't. The lesser educated, blue-collar MAGA supporters are in a cult and they need to break out of it. We have seen this happen before. This is history repeating. An insurrection, the Munich Hall Putsch.
What's wrong with MAGA supporters?
What is wrong with
MAGA supporters? What is wrong, Samara?
Yeah,
no, wait a second. Let me ask this question. What is wrong with decent Americans wanting to make America great again? Why do people pour contempt over that? Not you, Simon, Samara.
No, Trump mentioned it in one of his recent speeches. He said they keep calling us the MAGA cult, the MAGA crowd. They're probably listening to this show. And he said, what's wrong with Make America Great Again?
Yeah.
What is wrong with that?
What is wrong with that, Simon?
Make America Great Again, that's great. Put America first if that's what you want. Make America great again. But the person who is the figurehead of this movement is not a good person. He is a felon. He grabs people by the P word. He is a sex.
He says that.
He is a sex. He's a.
At least he doesn't smoke crack every 15 minutes like Hunter Biden.
Let's get on to Hunter Biden.
Right, Hunter Biden in this case. So what happened was, while he was stoned out of his mind on crack, he said that at the time he was smoking crack every 15 minutes. The prosecutors in Wilmington, Delaware, his hometown, say that this guy lives a life of non-stop debauchery. We all know about his love of narcotics, his love of prostitutes, and so on and so forth. So he goes into a gun shop and he buys this Cobra revolver, and you have to fill a form in. And in it, the form says, are you on drugs? Do you take drugs? Are you addicted to drugs? I mean, the idea that someone's going to, yes, I am. But he put no. And that's what this case revolves around, that he got this revolver on false pretenses and it could land him jail time.
Yeah, and even worse, actually, his girlfriend at the time, who was his dead brother's wife.
Bo.
Yes.
Yeah, that's another nice thing he did. His beloved brother died in a car crash, a road accident, and so Hunter steamed in on his wife. Nice guy.
Yeah. So the wife had half in that, but she decided to take the gun and dump it right near a school. So that's just another element of the case.
Lucky Hunter didn't have it. He probably shot a few school kids.
Okay, right.
Yeah, we don't know.
Now, are you going to defend the wonderful Hunter Biden?
I am jumping in here.
All right,
okay.
I want to ask you one more question. How come, when his dad was vice president, did a man who had no knowledge of the oil industry at all earn $50,000 a month from the Ukrainian oil industry? How did he manage to do that? Anything to do with his dad being vice president? I don't know.
Probably yes.
Anyway, thank you very much. Thank you for that.
He's a Nepo baby.
Yeah, the Bidens are a crime family.
Hunter spent his entire life globetrotting, trafficking money for Joe. That is factual.
Right, I'm going to answer.
You can't find a single Biden family member that isn't doing it.
Let Simple Simon stick up for Hunter Biden.
Okay, let me answer some of those questions. First things first, we know that he was an addict, a coke, crack-smoking addict. They don't make good decisions. He's talked about this. He's talked about this and he's talked about it in his book, okay? says a lot about America that you can walk into a gun shop totally off your tits on crack cocaine and buy a revolver. But we'll come back to...
hang on. The right to bear arms is very sacred to Americans.
It certainly is.
I think it's the best thing about America.
It certainly is, and I'm not saying that he shouldn't be able to do that. I'm just saying the checks and balances that allow somebody in that condition to buy a revolver need to be looked at.
Hang on. He lied. That's the point. There were checks and balances. Are you addicted to drugs? No, he put.
Are we surprised that the drug addict told a lie? Wow, that's amazing. I can't believe that.
Yeah, well, that doesn't excuse him.
I can't believe that a drug addict...
It's all right, it's OK. I killed 10 people, told 50 lies, but it's OK because I was addicted to drugs at the time.
Literally.
OK, let me go on
bullshit.
Let me go into the next thing.
OK, this makes Trump's whole thing look like an accounting error. How ridiculous. Like, the fact that we're even debunking, it's fine. He was
Trump, they say, is addicted to Adderall, and we see how much he lies.
Let me go back.
Adderall. Let me go back to. Let me answer the question. Okay, so
hang on a second. Wait a second. For legal purposes, I have to say there is no evidence that Donald Trump is addicted to Adderall or anything else, and we shouldn't be bandying around these baseless accusations.
Okay,
no,
so
you can't just put allegedly in it.
I just did.
Well, it's crack.
Okay.
Go on, go back to your stirring inspirational defense of Hunter the crackhead.
The massive cocaine freebasing addict lied about owning a gun, which he owned for something less than 20 days before his girlfriend dumped it stupidly in a bin, and he fibbed about that.
You're a school.
Okay,
yeah,
so what's more important, I think, less than the kind of bad decisions about the gun, I think, is the fact that he didn't pay tax. And we know that that's another case that's coming around. So you put the tax thing and you put the gun thing together, and yes, there are questions that he needs to answer, and he could go to jail.
So you would accept...
Yes,
let me just ask it. You would accept that in terms of the election, I mean, I accept it's true, Donald Trump will still have to deal with his conviction. I think he's going to overcome it. More and more seasoned observers are shocked by what they've seen in the last week, this groundswell of support, but they now say they think he still will win it. But it is a factor. He's going to have to think about it. You would accept, conversely, that Joe Biden has a Hunter Biden-shaped problem in terms of his election.
I actually don't think that the Hunter Biden...
It's a massive problem.
I don't think the Hunter Biden problem is as much a problem for, as Samara points out all the time, that Joe Biden presents as old. I think that's his biggest problem. I think the fact that he's allowing the process, the judicial process to play out for his son actually is much better than... I think that will be more positive for him. Going back again just to Hunter Biden and the Republican who's brought a lot of these charges against Hunter has been looking for 5 years to tie Joe Biden into the Hunter Biden problems. And when they finally get
bingo,
when they finally manage to get Hunter into court, Joe Biden is nowhere near this problem. That has been a dead duck.
Jill Biden is there.
She's there supporting.
Joe Biden, I think, to his credit, has said, I'm still a devoted father, I'm a devoted dad, and I worry about
justice must take its course.
My son. But when he said no man is above the law, no one is above the law in America, by the way, that goes for Britain as well, it did come back to haunt him, didn't it?
Yeah, I'm not so sure. I think that basically it's as big of an indictment on Joe's character as the trial was for Trump. Yeah. Because this is his son.
Shit, father.
Sorry, just slightly. This is someone he raised. And I'm just starting to think, if these are the values that he instilled
couldn't bring up his breakfast, let alone his son.
Yeah, basically, if his son has turned out so horribly that I'm thinking with the running of this country that he's trying to do, I don't know, I'm starting to see a couple things of America
you would accept that Hunter Biden is a really bad excuse for a human being.
No.
This is someone Joe Biden
you think he's a very fine, upstanding man?
No, I think that
all those crack pipes, all those hookers.
I think he's had his demons as... I think he's had it...
They found literally a pile of cocaine inside his laptop.
He was an addict. That's what they do. And the fact that he's turned his life around and the fact that he's...
Turned his life around?
The fact that
he's in court.
The fact that he's written about this in his book... This has been weaponized by the Republicans, by the MAGA Republicans, to try and wound his dad. And Hunter has said, they're trying to kill me because they know that will have an effect on my dad. We've already lost one son, and the emotional knock-on about what will happen if they get to Hunter will affect his dad and knock him out.
Pass me the world's smallest violin, for Christ's sake.
Pass him the world's smallest violin.
Hey, Hunter. Hey, Hunter. Welcome to the real world. That's the way it is. Now, here's the thing, Samara. When the Democrats, turned the American justice system into a weapon by, going back into obscure history to find these bookkeeping discrepancies and to
2016
to get rid of, that's a long time ago, to get rid of the tradition that you don't prosecute former presidents, they opened a Pandora's box. And that's why the Republicans are going for Hunter Biden, because if the Democrats are going to do it in New York, the Republicans will do it in Delaware. And when Donald Trump gets in, he says that maybe I'll do it. The problem, look, when you're the president, right, Clinton, Obama, George Bush, whoever, you have to do things. You have to take ruthless decisions that in the cold light of day, after you've stopped being president, lawyers can go, that looks to me as if that could be interpreted as against the law or against American law, international or American law. Now, the reason that you don't prosecute, Richard Nixon obviously broke the law. All of these presidents, if you look at them, probably broke the law. But the tradition is you don't prosecute former presidents, because if you start doing that, who knows where it will lead. Now, the Democrats have ruined that tradition. What for? A major crime? No. Bookkeeping in 2016, and they have opened a Pandora's box that will mean every president, Samara, from now on is going to end up in the dock, and that is not good.
They've set such a dangerous precedent. They've legalized the political system and they've politicized the legal system. And it is really dangerous. We don't know now. They could sift back, as you said, to Nixon. Oh, obviously what he did was illegal, but they could go back to the Clintons have a lot to answer for. I think a lot of our viewers will know that if we start sifting through their campaign donations, we might find a thing or two. It's dangerous.
I agree. I agree with both of you. I think that the smart play here would have been to pardon Trump and to sort of move him out of the way. There are two...
Could have pardoned him, that's not
There are two less than great candidates standing for this election. I would have to say that. I don't think Trump is great. As you know, my feelings on Trump. I don't think Joe Biden is the right person. However, when it comes to politicizing, this stuff, Trump's crimes, because of the insurrection,
That wasn't a crime.
Because of the insurrection.
I'll get your point, Simon. I'm going to say this, that I think Donald Trump's an excellent candidate because he's going to make America great again. It's time for a bad ad.
John Gill's the Timber Man. John Gill's the Timber Man.
John Gill and his staff would like to thank all his customers and wish everyone a happy Christmas and a prosperous new year.
And Cleveland.
A lot of wood there. John Gill's got wood, as you just said, Simon. Do you have many adverts for wood in Australia?
John Gill's got
That's
wood.
Australia, folks. That's for Samara.
Was that in Australia?
That was a wood-evoking ad, I'm sure, for many that watched it.
So is wood a popular
timber
sort of product that you have on TV a lot?
I feel like any Greenpeace people that are watching this will be having an actual nightmare.
Well, as I asked you, it does at least prove that Australia's last got television, so that's a good innovation.
I was looking at some of the comments last week, and I had to say to Samara, who's pretty much wrong about everything, that I take offence on her behalf of people saying, "Oh, she's bagging Australia, she's doing this." If you can't laugh at something like that in your own country, then get a sense of humour.
But tell all your fellow Australians, stop making adverts about wood. It's ridiculous. Time for a real ad now. What just happened? We're going to talk about the migrant crisis. We've got one here in Britain, of course, but I think we'll concentrate on the southern border of America, where there is virtually a humanitarian catastrophe going on. At times, as many as sort of 350,000 a month. People coming up from Mexico and Latin America trying to get in the States. And frankly, it's panic stations with Joe Biden's administration, because this is kind of, as I say, it's humanitarian. Kids are turning up without their parents. The authorities don't know what to do with them. There's nowhere to put them. People are dying down there. So it is an emergency. So what Joe Biden is planning to do, or what he's already done, more than 150,000 migrants who were applying to say, asylum seekers, please can we stay in America? In the past, usually the answer is, no, you can't, go home. In fact, they never get into the States. Well, their cases have all been dismissed. So they've been allowed in. And also, in the time-honoured American fashion, what they're going to do, there's 350,000 illegal migrants in the States who come over that border. They're going to get an amnesty, be given their green cards and allowed to stay. Now, America has always done this. I know this from my time in Los Angeles, because that is a city that absolutely depends on illegal immigrants from Mexico. But it is a bit odd. It's almost like saying, we had a big problem with murder. Hundreds of thousands of people getting murder. Well, what we've done is we've legalised murder, and now we don't have a problem anymore. This is rather, to use what Donald Trump might say, this is cooking the books to make it look as if they haven't got a problem. But they have a massive humanitarian problem of all these people coming in. When Biden got into power, he basically said, yeah, come on in. Now he's thinking of building a wall like Donald Trump wanted to.
You were doing so well until you equated it with murder, and I was like, oh, God, here we go.
No, but you know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
You take a crime and you suddenly say it's not a crime.
Yeah, not
it doesn't
murder.
solve the crime problem.
Okay, so...
Yeah, but also Laken Riley was murdered by an illegal immigrant in America. She was bashed to death. So it's actually not that, happy and flowery.
It's just an allegory. It's just an allegory. We don't have to actually go into the... Maybe...
Okay, I don't know. Listen, I think that... With 350,000 people suddenly given an amnesty, I looked at some figures beforehand, and it turns out that 3.6 million Americans died last year, and 3.2 Americans were born.
They're probably watching, they were watching Suits.
So there,
rather than get to the end of the
discrepancy. There's a discrepancy of about 400,000 Americans that are needed. The ones that have been born won't be able to enter the workforce for at least another 15, 16 years. Yeah. So you're going to need, as you say, you're going to need those people. You're going to need those immigrants, those migrants to come in and do those jobs.
Yeah, but Americans, Samara, are very upset about this. I mean, they don't want this invasion from Latin America.
It's not an invasion.
Sorry, go to any...
You have to be very careful, everybody, about the language you use. It's a invasion.
It's not.
Yes, it is.
Go to New York, LA. They
Simon.
are different cities to what they were 10 years ago. And it's because of this. And you know what? It's really unfair of Biden to set this really dangerous precedent that, we'll give you amnesty when you come over. Because then it gives absolute credence to these people smugglers who are charging $8,000 to get over the border. It's 6.3 million migrants that have crossed over the border during the Biden administration. That's more than Obama, that's more than Trump, that's more than any of the three before him. And it is absolutely ridiculous to say that they will be allowed amnesty, because a lot of them won't. And then this sets the dangerous precedent and gets them over and gets them to come over when they actually can't.
Samara, some of these people, a lot of these people actually are people who have money already. You need to have money to be able to travel up from Latin America to get to the border. The other thing is, I think... And we have a migration problem with migrants over here in Europe. I think that if there's somebody who's been able to, by hook or crook or by their own ingenuity, manage to get from there to here... Wait there, let me finish. I would say...
Criminals.
I would
breaking the law.
They're not all criminals.
Well, they are. They broke the law by trying to break into America.
But if they've
that's against the law. They're criminals.
If they can be that innovative, put them in the workforce. Let's get some entrepreneurs here. Not all of them are criminals. Not all of them...
That's like saying this bank robber's brilliant. Let's give him a medal.
What is wrong with being bombed bombarded by images of a better life and then striving to find and have that better life elsewhere.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that aspiration.
There are legal ways of getting into the US. You're encouraging people to jump over the border, use
I'm not encouraging them.
extremely dangerous tactics to get into America.
I'm not encouraging them. I'm saying if they can get there and then there's an amnesty, good for them, because America needs migrants.
A lot of these people are fleeing because they've gotten in trouble with their gang back at home.
That's not a lot of these people. We can't tar all these people with the same
Why are
brush.
they, if they've got money, why are they leaving their country then?
Because,
Can you answer me that?
Yes, because a lot of their countries, I mean, you look at somewhere like Venezuela, which was at one point the Saudi of Latin America, and it's been
That's
absolutely...
not a flex.
Yeah, one of your left-wing mates took charge of the country and completely it.
Yeah.
But also the Americans did try and topple that government as well. So let's not pretend that America wasn't involved in that.
Let me just
but Chavez did screw over Venezuela, and of course the middle class have left and tried for a better life.
I'm not decrying the aspiration. You know, America's the promised land.
It is.
It's just like in Britain. Britain is the promised land for all the migrants coming up through Europe. That is the way of the world, and I understand their aspiration. You know, we live in a hut. If we get to America, we can live in a house with a swimming pool. That, you know, that's aspiration. Does not detract from the fact that they're breaking the fucking law, and as such, they shouldn't be allowed into the country.
It is so dangerous, Simon. They can be walking around America with no documentation. We don't know who they are. They can be doing whatever they want, any sort of under-the-table jobs, which is, you know, you've spoken about that, Kevin. It is an industry, but I think that it's not an industry that we should encourage.
Yeah, I get it, but Joe Biden is not solving this problem by giving 350,000 people...
And Kevin...
wait a second, we've got to go to a break in a minute, but he's not solving the problem by giving 350,000 people an amnesty and dismissing the cases of 150,000 more. That's 500,000 people. And as I say, old Donald Trump used to really get it in the neck when he used to go, build a wall, build a wall. Guess who wants to build a wall now? Joe Biden. Unbelievable. Time now for a real ad. Or was it a bad ad?
You wish for rugs? I bring you rugs from around the world. Your wish been granted. Up to 70% of machine-made rugs. Save on these beautiful handmade rugs before they disappear. Designer rug and hallway runner from $10 per meter. Fly now and grab yourself a bargain. Come and see me, the Rug Genie, at Ryan Rug Gallery, Pakenham, across from Office World.
Pakenham, is it? So that's Australia
That's
as well.
Australia.
What kind of a country do you live in?
A great country. That was a fantastic ad. $10
that was a great
square
ad.
metre.
That was
Let's
a
go.
great ad.
Yeah, it was really good.
I think you'll find that's a migrant there who's gone in and managed to, through aspiration.
What makes you think he's a migrant?
He came across the border on that
on a
magic
carpet.
It was like he had a magic carpet.
Border guards, nothing we can do about that. Time for a real ad. What just happened? It is time now for some of your responses to the show. As I say, we are very grateful that so many of you take the trouble to put comments underneath the show. I mean, literally thousands. So we're thrilled about that because you feel a sense of involvement, and we love the fact that you're involved. We especially love it when you piss all over Simon London. We'll do that in a minute. But first, Samara, what have you got from our comments list?
I love this comment. It's simple, really. Samara and Kev are right, and Simple Simon is wrong.
Perfect. Who's that from?
That's from Smolder.
Smolder, on the money, bang on. So, Simple Simon, what have you got?
Smiley Z says, I don't agree with Simon, but I give him credit for not losing it with rage at the way you speak to him, Kevin. And he's still way better than JJ.
Yeah. Well, do you think I treat you badly? Shut up, you fool. Samara?
So Ravello says, I'm unsubscribing because of the depth of disrespect Kevin continues to display to his guest. Simon telling him to shut up and shouting over him doesn't help.
Yeah, well, Samara, yeah, but what's his name? Samara?
Revel.
Oh, Revel. Why did I say
Revelo.
Samara? Anyway, I bet you tune in again. I bet you do. Anyway, that's the whole dynamic of the show. Us laughing at Simon. He's here as a figure of fun, so we can piss all over him. What have you got now, Simon?
Well, this is something that I mentioned earlier. Aussie963 says, why is Samara bagging the country she comes from so much? Seriously, not cool. And I'd never heard the phrase bagging before, but...
but it makes sense. I mean, I haven't either, but you can work out the meaning. Why are you bagging your country?
I'm not in that country for obvious reasons.
Hi, Samara, why are you bagging Australia?
Yeah, bloody good accent, mate. Oh. Why am I bagging Australia? I love Australia, guys. You poke fun at it. It's satire.
You've never been there. You make this accent up, don't you?
Birth certificate.
What you got, Simon? Hang on. Is it your turn?
I was wondering, Cutler Park has said 2 of the poorest excuses for journalists I've ever seen. Now, who is he referring to?
You two.
I would imagine me. So people say to me the other, I thought you were a serious journalist. Whatever gave you that idea?
Smiley Z here says, I don't agree with Simon, but I give him credit for not losing it with rage at the way you speak to him, Kevin. I think I just read that, didn't I?
You did, yeah. You're just going to read that one all night, are you?
Say it over and over again.
Look at this one again.
Sorry. Lynn Therese says, Simon's ignorance is so obvious. He would speak up for Harry and Meg no matter what awful thing they did. But why do you have him on? He's not a balanced opinion, but a ridiculous guest. Ridiculous spelt wrong, Lynn.
Well done, Lynn. Well done, Lynn. That's very funny. A ridiculous guest. He is a ridiculous guest, as I say. What just happened? We have to have a village in it. I give you Simon London. What do you got, Samara?
Dan said, does Simon use drugs?
Yeah, he's a big mate of Hunter Biden, actually.
Methinks he doth protest too much. He defends Harry, a lawbreaker, and calls Trump a lawbreaker. What a hypocrite. Simon the hypocrite.
That's a good point. Yeah, so Harry's a lawbreaker, isn't he?
Yes.
Well,
thank you very much.
Yeah, cool.
Moving on.
53 Malolly says, Simon is right about Trump. The former president is a criminal. He has always been a criminal.
Well, that's not true. He's been a criminal since, was it last Friday?
Yeah.
Last Thursday night.
I'm with you, Malolly.
I mean, he is technically a criminal now, but it is fascinating that seems to be working in his favour. As I said in my monologue, my brilliant monologue, that the rules don't apply to Donald Trump. They never have and they never will. And that's what Biden doesn't understand. He thought, I've got him now. I've got him. He's a felon. No one will vote for him. Yeah, let's see. Have we got any more?
Yeah, Prue says, another disturbing version of JJ. And then Alexandra says, simple Simon.
Simple Simon. That is so
gonna
stick,
it's pure
isn't
hate
it?
comments.
And Patricia Ard4870 says, Simon usually makes my blood boil over H&M, but his take on Trump is exceptional. Yeah. Thank you.
Right, on that bombshell, Simon being right, that's very unusual. Not true, actually. Let's go to a bad ad.
To keep your dogs healthy and on the go, feed them Dog Pro, that's the go.
Working dogs need nutritious food to keep them on the go and to get the job done. Dog Pro Plus Working Dog is egg enriched and provides the right balance of proteins and fats for complete dog nutrition. Available in 1,300 stores Australia-wide.
To keep your dogs healthy and on the go, feed them Dog Pro, that's the go. Dog Pro, that's the go.
Is that the sort of place you lived? Did you grow up on that kind of
yes, that shed that they showed, yes.
Did you have one of those hats with corks hanging down? How many kangaroos are there in Sydney?
Oh my God, you wouldn't see them. That's the thing. I mean, there are people...
Well, they hide.
Yeah, they do. But there are people that do ride around on them. Yeah, there's all that stuff going down in Australia. That was a very accurate representation. I'm liking these ads today.
Yeah. What did it say something about the dogs being on the dole or something?
Yeah, something like that.
They said.
And I love the fact as well, it just suddenly said enriched with eggs.
Yeah.
In case you were wondering what was in this.
Proper eggs. Yeah.
Yeah,
Australia, a country where even the dogs are on the dole. And on that bombshell, I don't mean to be nasty about Australia, but it's just Samara. She brings out the worst in me. Thank you very much, I think, to Simon London for another dubious performance. He'll be back next week. And thank you, of course, to Samara Gill, my brilliant producer and excellent guest on What Just Happened. We'll be back, same time, same place next week.